Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inspire Circle once again. And my name is Fumi Olainka. I am a speaker, a trainer, and a life coach. And I'm thrilled today. I have a special guest with me on this episode of the program today. I have Tavara Johnson, all the way from the Bahamas, on this platform. Tavara, we welcome you. We're so happy to have you on this platform today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's definitely a pleasure. I truly appreciate the invite to be on your platform and just be able to share with your listening audience today. So,
Thank you so much. We are so thrilled to have you too. So I'm just going to give a brief bio of Tavara. Tavara is a John Maxwell trainer, leader, and coach. She's also a John Maxwell Discount personality person. She's part of the President Advisory Council of the John Maxwell team, and she emboldens and tries to uplift leaders to elevate their lives and their leadership to unprecedented levels of success. One thing about her is that she's driven by a passion. And one of her expression is the Emergence Radio Talk Show on Envision Broadcasting Network. Privileged to be there, have been a guest on that show, and I can tell you she's doing a phenomenal work. She also complements these endeavors with the leadership chamber, the leadership chamber, the Emerging Leaders Lab, and the Corporate Leaders Lab, all in the bid to make sure that she's giving out strategies for fulfilling and adding value to the lives of other people. Thank you, Tavara, once again. What an interesting bio you have here. Thank you so much. To start off today, I want you to go ahead and, I've read your bio, but I want you to share a little bit of your background with us and what led you into this leadership space and coaching and training.
well, so I started off really dealing with women, having women's empowerment events and what have you. But I really got into the leadership space after dealing with toxic leadership and really wanting to make a difference and understanding that people lead from their place of trauma. So, sometimes when you have toxic leadership, it's really because people, have dealt with things in the past that they haven't necessarily healed from, and now they're really taking it out on people. And to be able to see persons who were young and even like my age, and I'm saying to myself, okay, you guys are toxic. That's not a good thing, because I'm looking at it as this is like the next set of generation or the next people to really be leading. So we don't need to deal with that. And I just really wanted to be able to really equip persons, to train them, to put them in a better space to see, okay, well, let's get back to basics in terms of dealing with whatever trauma that they have, whether it's, mommy left me, daddy left me, my teacher told me I wouldn't be good enough. Like all of these things, people don't realize that they really affect the way in which persons lead. And so for me, it was really just to have a better space, a better world. And I'm like, if you spend most of your waking hours on the workforce, for persons who, when you talk about being in corporate, if you spend 8 hours or 8 or 9 of your waking hours away from family with strangers in this space for 40 hours a week, that's 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, persons need to be comfortable. Everyone has something that they're dealing with. So the last thing you need to be dealing with is toxic leadership when you go to work, right? Giving you anxiety and just looking at all of the things that happen, all of the effects that happen to people because of toxic leadership. So it really put me in the space of wanting to really equip those leaders to say, hey, this is not the way to lead. Like John said, everyone deserves to be led well, and I totally agree. Not everyone wants to be in a leadership capacity, so of course you would need to make sure that you lead them well, that you empower them, and then just really to be at a space where, if you die today tomorrow, what would people say about you? will they say that you impacted them? Will they say that you wasn't of help to them? What will they say? And, we talk about legacy. So for me, it was really toxic leadership, that dealing with toxic leadership led me to that space. And so that really goes, a person say that your purpose is birth out of your pain, right? And so for me, that's a part of it. I believe that my mandate has never changed. I just feel like my audience has, my target audience, from dealing with just women to now capable persons who are leaders. And I would preface this by saying, leaders are anyone who has influence. So I know sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm not in a managerial role or a supervisor or CEO or whatever. But as long as you have influence, because people lead in the home as well. So just really wanting to make a difference and not having persons to deal with the things that I would have experienced when we talk about toxic leadership. So that's pretty much, how that's really how I got into the leadership space. I love training. I love coaching. I love to, help people to get unstuck and really just unlock their full potential. So that's how I got there.
Wow. Wow. That's commendable and that's phenomenal. I like the fact that you were able to use your pain or the things that you have noticed that were not going wrong in the space where you are, and were able to turn it around, and it became a purpose for you. Because most times we struggle to identify what our purpose is. And one of the key things is us being aware. There's something they call situational awareness and inner awareness, speaking to ourselves and reaching down deep within
Yes.
ourselves to identify those things that makes us tick, and
Yes.
bringing them out. I was listening to somebody today. It says there is light in each and every one of us.
Yes.
Until we switch it on, it's not going to be of benefit to anybody. So there is light in us, but we need to switch it on. And you were able to switch yours on and become aware that this is not something that should continue. People cannot keep leading from a trauma-based position, because it's not going to be of benefit to you yourself leading or to anybody. That is why we have various kind of habits that could lead to not leading people well. And thank you so much for going deep within yourself to be aware that because I work in trauma. I'm also in the health industry, so I work with trauma. And one thing that we've come to realize is there is nobody that will not go through trauma in life.
Yes.
You might have not gone through it now, but there is going to come a particular time that trauma will be part of life, because it's us living life. But do we have to continue living life out of that trauma? No. But we have to pass on the legacy of leadership. And one thing I also love that you mentioned was leadership is not about position.
Yes.
Everyone has in them that leadership tendency, and it's about influence. You might be a mom at home, you might be a store manager, whatever it is, there is that tendency, and it needs to be cultivated and developed. Thank you so much, Tavara, for sharing your journey with us. That is so phenomenal. Uh, I went to your website, so I saw some things you've been doing as regards to women, and I said, wow, she's so multi-skilled, multi-talent. This is so interesting. I saw the women to women thing. I saw things you were doing to empower other women. So I want us to switch it up a little bit. Women encounter challenges, especially women in leadership. In fact, research has shown that it's only about 5.2 of women that are part of the Fortune 500 leadership. So I want us to explore some of the challenges that women face in leadership position. It could either be coming from trauma or anything, but let us just look at some of the challenges that women face in leadership.
I would definitely say, even for a woman to lead with confidence is a struggle. I think because some persons aren't either, they're not self-aware. And also, a lot of times we say we want to have a seat at the table, but when we get to the table, we don't feel like we really belong there. And it really shows that, your confidence is really needed in order to, I would say one of the things that women struggle with. And I think because of the lack of confidence, it even causes women to almost feel like they have to do all these extra things just to say that I'm matching up to my counterparts, right? Especially if you may be in a predominantly male environment or predominantly male industry, and you're at the top. You're like, okay, well, do I need to adjust who I am or how I lead to say that I'm matching up to my male counterpart? So I would definitely say confidence is one of those things that a lot of women struggle with. I mean, women struggle with confidence on the whole, but especially when you talk about leading. And so it really always goes back to self. So if you don't really deal with yourself, dealing with self is the foundation. And so everything else that you do will be affected by that. So I would say leading with confidence is an issue. Definitely self-awareness. Some people are just too, the saying is women are so emotional, right? Sometimes women lead from that place of their emotions, because women are natural nurturers.
Yeah.
So one of the things, one of my bosses, he taught me that I will never forget this. I just so love him. One of my very first bosses, coming out of college. I call him, we call him Mr. J. And one of the things he always taught me, he said, stick to the facts and keep your feelings out of it. And for me, he's told me that from many years ago till now. That is the one principle that I do, even in my personal life. And it's really made my life a whole lot easier. It really has. Because he and I, we were having a conversation. I was telling him, I don't think that a particular individual should be fired. And I was going into all these different things. He said, let's talk about it. And as we talked about it, and he shared some other things with me, and then he said, listen, he said, you have to stick to facts and not your feelings. He said, because your feelings will come for every time. And that is why you have some people, when they make emotional decisions, they have to go back to try to correct it, or they have to come back and say, I'm sorry. Right? Not that apologizing is a bad thing, but leading with your emotions it could cause issues. I'm not saying that you should not have that human element, but everything should not be with your emotions, okay? Because I don't, someone may have an issue with someone or just a whole lot of things. And again, and then they begin to do that. And it really causes challenges. So I would say leading with the emotions, not being able to lead effectively with confidence as well as self-awareness with some of the issues that I believe women have when it comes to leading.
Wow. That's insightful. That's so insightful. You said a lot of things, but the one that struck me most, it's about, confidence, and it's something that a lot of women do struggle with. I have also struggled with, having self-confidence too. I remember I was invited onto a platform, and most of the people there, had doctorate degrees, and I felt, oh, excuse me. Do I really belong here?
Yeah.
But I had to really, as you said, come to an awareness. It's because it's not about, it's good to have all these things, right? It's good to learn it. It's good if you can pursue it. But I've come to realize that it's more about your self-worth, who you are, than what you're doing or the paraphernalia that surrounds you. And a lot of women have potentials. They have deep things on their inside, but because they feel they don't meet up to the mark, or they are not worth it, they cannot, or get what they want. And of course, some of them, they struggle to get to the table, but they don't know what to do at the table. And that is very key too. And it takes confidence for you to really say, okay, I'm here now. I have value to dispense where I am. And that is that is very insightful. Confidence is very insightful. You have something else to add?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think that's why too, like I'm a big I love coaching, I love mentoring, and I think that's why it's always those type of things are important. Because if you are struggling with confidence and you have a coach that can say, listen, they could give you all the tips and the tools and the strategies to help you to become more confident. Of course, you have to believe in yourself, but they would be able to really empower you and pour into you in a way, whereas it helps to bring your confidence level up. And so I would say for anyone who may, be struggling with that, find yourself someone who could help you to get to that next level. I always tell people, I always hang around people who have way more going on than me. They have way more money going on, but because I desire to get to that place. And I think once we begin to change the lens or look at people who may have more, or may rather be credentials, funds, money, whatever it may be, once you begin to change the lens and look at them as a space of saying, hey, how can you help me to get to this place? Look at it more as a learning experience to get to that place and not allow it to intimidate you. And then you're able to, better lead with confidence to be in certain rooms. Because sometimes the hard part is getting in the room or to the table, and the last thing you need to do once you're there is to don't believe that you should not.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people, I always tell people don't do that. And even sometimes persons may get to a table or in a room and they're like, oh, I'm so nervous. No, don't tell the people that you're nervous. Right? Sometimes they have no idea, you know that you're nervous, but they have no clue. They have no idea. Tell
That
you
you're nervous. Exactly.
say that, right? I think that's too also where preparation comes into play. You have to be prepared, because I've had situations whereas I might have been nervous, but I know I was prepared. So when it was time for me to speak, the nervousness left because why I was prepared. I think sometimes some people, they're not fully prepared, or they just overthink things. A lot of people, especially women, we overthink a whole lot of things. I think if we keep it simple, it'll make life a whole lot easier. And so that will be, what I would say, add to, of course, being prepared and also having a coach or mentor to really be able to help you get to that next place.
Wow. Wow. That is so good. And you have just mentioned, what my next question would have been, and that is, what are some of the strategies, that women can use in order to mitigate this particular challenge you're looking at? We know there are several challenges that will face women in leadership face, and not only the issues of confidence. But I just want you to highlight, you've mentioned about mentoring, you've mentioned about coaching. What are other strategies that comes to mind that we can use, or women in leadership can utilize, in order to mitigate some of these obstacles that we are facing, so that we can better serve? Because I know women, we are very good leaders. We can be very good.
Yes, we can be. I would definitely say affirmation is one of those things, right? Sometimes you may have to look into the mirror and affirm yourself every day. I think we have to get to the place where you understand that you're good enough, regardless of what anyone says, right? Not saying that there won't be people to cheer you on, but you first have to believe that you are good enough. And for those who are faith-based like myself, as it relates to the Bible and God and Jesus, you got to know what he's saying about you. You have to, one of the things I always say, or one of my prayers I would say, is always, God, allow me to see me the way you see me.
Wow. That's
And
good.
once that lens is open up, then nothing else really matters, because it really helps with the confirmation as well. So that would be one of the things that I would say, for persons to do. Affirmations is always key. And just, a lot of self-reflection. Look at where, we don't, when I think John talks about this too, about pausing and reflecting, sometimes it's important to look at where I used to be, or where you used to be, where you're currently at now. You may not be where you would like to be, but you're surely not where you used to be, right? And just begin to build upon those things. Look at, reflect on your accomplishments thus far. Reflect on, the spaces where it led you to and what your interactions would be. So you're able to say, okay, hey, I really believe that I'm supposed to be in this space. Also, I believe having a supportive network is important. To have I mean, having a community is important. Unfortunately, I mean, persons who may love to be by themselves, we don't live here by ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I believe God intentionally set it up, whereas we need other people, because I believe for him, relationships are important. Our relationship with him is important. So of course, relationships are important. And so really developing or having that support system, that building that network of other people who are able to help to edify you as well. So those would be some of the things that I would say, or some of the recommendations I would provide for persons who may be struggling, in those areas, or in confidence when it comes to leading.
Wow, wow. Those are very fantastic strategies. You mentioned about self affirmation, and I love that very much because it's very key. We are our own greatest cheerleader, you know.
As well as enemy.
Exactly, as well as enemy. So you can choose which one you want to be. Do you want to be your own best cheerleader, or you want to be the enemy within? And if you are an enemy within, it's like a cancer that eats itself up within. So we don't want to be cancerous to ourselves. We want to give ourselves, the energy, the boost. And you mentioned about I'm also a person of faith. Coming from that angle, they are seeing ourselves from the lens and the perspective in which God sees us, and saying it every day, because I do say it every day. Mm-hmm. I am the apple of God's eyes. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am bold as a lion. You begin to look for these things, because if you don't look for them in the Word of God, you will not know they exist. So there were things I actually had to actively look for and see myself from the perspective of the Word of God. And it has really helped me a lot. And you also mentioned about community. The lion does not, just dwell alone. They go in pack. That is why they are called a flock, a pack. They go in pack because they thrive in community. Yes, we can thrive as individual, but it's also important that we learn to dwell in community. And fortunately, that is how we have been created. Yeah. That is how we have been created. We have been created, to work together, to dwell together. What Tavara has, I can pull from a wealth of experience. She can also pull from my wealth of experience, and we become better for it. And that is the power of synergy too, the power of synergy, which is very, very key and very important. So this has been very interesting. I wish we could just go on and on and on in this discussion. I beyond women in leadership, beyond cultivating confidence, beyond the challenges that we face. Have you ever helped women leaders cultivate their personal and their professional growth?
Yeah, and so it goes back to, like I say, that even that foundation. So for me, the personal growth, it starts from the foundation, because you have to deal with that first, right? Your self-awareness, your confidence. And then also, where would you like to go professionally? Right. I believe that, and I have something what I call a leadership SWOT analysis, that I believe that, everyone should do, to figure out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are some of the things that are stopping you from going. What are the threats to your leadership? What are some of the opportunities that you think that you could probably take on, right? So I believe, for me, I like to help people as to, where am I now? Where am I now? Where would I want to go? And what am I going to do, or what is my plan going to be to get there? From a personal standpoint. And then, of course, for the professional side of it, once you know where you want to go, then you're able to get yourself there, whether it's from on a professional standpoint, whether it's getting certifications. I tell people nowadays, degrees are so expensive, right? They are
It
so
takes
expensive.
a lifetime.
Yeah, they're so expensive. But so sometimes just, get certifications. I tell people, listen to podcasts, read books. I believe that leaders should be readers, right? Because I mean, you're able to learn so much from that. And again, if a person's, if they want to get on a professional standpoint, like let's say they want promotions or they want to, in their job, like, teach them the things what they would need to do to be able to get to that space, to be seen some more. Sometimes it requires you to step out of your comfort zone. We are so comfortable, out of all of us, we have a level of what I call our comfort, our comfort zone. We have that level of comfort. But if you want to get somewhere else, you have to do something different. They say doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results is insanity, right? So you got to do something else.
Yeah.
And you do it the right way, you do it the ethical way. So I believe everything goes back to having also goals. Like, what are your goals looking like? Some people don't have goals, or if they have them, they're not written down anywhere, they're in their head, how are you going to get there? So you have to have the, because again, even especially when you talk about the corporate space or the workplace, you have to have your allies, right? People who can glean from, or sometimes you may say, what can I do? Job rotation. When they have performance management appraisals, put on your, I was able to put on your appraisals what it is that you want to do. One thing I've come to learn about management is that sometimes they don't tell you everything. So for them, they could be thinking about various changes. For example, they don't say anything to you, but if they're able to see on your performance appraisal, okay, this person, she's interested or he's interested in doing something else or X, Y, and Z, then maybe they could push you in there, because sometimes what companies do, especially when you talk about like succession planning, sometimes they would give, they won't necessarily tell you, well, I have you trained, I'm training you for this. They just will give you certain tasks, because we know if someone is saying that I'm being trained for succession planning, well, you're looking for the role, and if nothing comes up, then what are you going to do? So
Yeah.
sometimes management is very careful in the way in which they put that out there. I mean, you talk about succession planning.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they say, sometimes they don't. But suppose your manager is looking to give you more things to do, to be able to promote you to something else. And so you have to be open to that. People say, well, they're not paying me for this. This is my job description, right? So, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say put stuff on your performance appraisal so they know, they're aware. And when changes are happening, you say, okay, well, formally she said that she was interested in, in a leadership capacity. So let's see what we could do, or what our next steps would be with her, whether we tell her or we don't tell her.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what I can pick from what you've said so far, it's the importance of being able to advocate for yourself, and also to be visible enough in the place of work, in terms of your professional life, and take up responsibilities, because it goes a long way. Thank you for that insightful contribution there. That's fantastic. I want us to quickly go, as we look ahead to the future in terms of female leadership. What trends or changes do you see in the landscape? How do you think that, as a person that is in leadership, helping people to navigate that process, how can they be supported in this shift?
So one of the things I'm seeing a lot of when we talked about, especially women in leadership, like a lot of women are really doing well in leadership. You're seeing them breaking a lot of barriers. They, some may be the first Black person, the first young person, whatever it may be. Like I'm seeing a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of leaders occupying a lot of different spaces now. And I think what we have to do is just really support them, as we see that they're growing. And And, if you're someone who may be on a team of someone who is breaking out, I think we have to get to the space where we understand that if Funmi is successful, it makes me successful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And look at how it is that you can support them based on whatever the strengths are, based on whatever their needs are. Because at the end of the day, every leader needs a support team. So it's just a matter of seeing where you fit in based on your strengths and based on the needs of persons who, may be in your life or who may be excelling and really breaking a lot of these glass ceilings.
Wow, that's so key. And I like your movement, I will call it the Emerging Leaders and the Emerging Leaders Lab. And I want to believe that this is part of the things you're doing, giving the support for emerging leaders, because you also mentioned that there are, women leaders are rising. Women are getting more aware. We have not gotten there yet, but we are getting aware that this is a space that we can also play in. There are young leaders, less than 40, less than 30, doing great things. I was speaking with my son the other day. He's in high school, and he said, "Mommy, a lot of the girls, they are the ones taking the leadership position. They are leading this. They are leading this team. They are leading this volunteering. They are leading." I said, because they know that I have value. I might be of another gender, but I have value. I can add value. That is why they are taking up that space. It is not because we are contending with the male sex, but because we also know that our own leadership style might be different, but we also have something to bring to the table for the benefit of everybody. So, in conclusion, just before we round up, rather, I would want you to give your final thoughts and advice to aspiring leaders, particularly female leaders. Just give your thoughts, your advice, what you think they need to know.
So my final advice when it comes to emerging women leaders or aspiring leaders, I always tell people, find a leader who you could say, I would like to be like this particular individual. Look at their journey, because a lot of times, we see people in certain capacities and have no idea as to what their journey was and still is, like what it took for them to get there. And look at the qualities that they have and say that, okay, well, this is how I would want to be. But of course, better. I would also say, I don't stray away from the coaching. I would always say, find a coach.
A coach, yeah.
Because they help you through a lot of areas that you would not see. They've been there, they've done that. So it makes your life a little bit easier. I always say a lot of times we don't have to go through everything. I believe that we could learn from other people's mistakes. I like to be smart. I like to learn from other people's mistakes, right?
Exactly. You don't want to fall in the same pit. Shorten your journey.
So you don't go through that. And then just really study the whole landscape of leadership. Even look at toxic leadership. See what that has done, the effects that it has on that it had or still has on people, whether it's in the workplace. You have to be able to look at what good leadership looks like, what the effects are, what bad leadership is, and what the effects are. And think about what you want your leadership legacy to look like. Only you know what you want it to look like. I tell people all the time, every interaction that we have with someone, we are creating legacy, whether we believe it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you really have to be mindful how you, what your interactions are with people. Work on yourself. Do a self-assessment. Do a personality assessment to understand why it is that you function the way that you do. Right? I think that is extremely important. And then you're able to build on there from your strengths. You're able to further build on your strengths and any weaknesses that you have, any blind spots that you have, because we all have them. The blind spots are the things that we don't see that other people see. I always believe in getting feedback from persons. So every so often, I do my own assessment and I ask persons around me who deal with me on a regular basis. So how have I been doing? What is it that I can change? You have to be open to that, right?
Yeah.
To the feedback, because sometimes it may not be a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
You sit with it, you think about it, and then you say, okay, well, how can I move on from this particular place? Believe that you can do it. That's the most important. I'm going to always advocate for a relationship with God, because that is always important. He helps you,
Yeah.
be able to be led, find a community, and most importantly, stay humble, stay teachable.
Yeah.
Humility takes you a very, very long way. Yeah, I tell people all the time, even your character, what do you want that to be like?
Mm.
The doors could open, but only your integrity, your
I'll take
humility,
it.
and your character will keep that door open.
Yeah.
Because you could have persons who are skilled at what they do, but they have horrible attitudes, and people don't work with them. People prefer
Wow.
to deal with persons who may not be as skilled, but they have a very pleasant attitude, and they're humble and they're teachable. So that would be my final advice to aspiring
Right.
leaders. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. We cannot really quantify the amount of nuggets and wisdom that you have shared with the audience today, which is very key. And it's very important that we seek out community. And I see you emphasizing community. And that is why part of the things that I do and I have passion for is, also supporting and encouraging a vibrant community of women, especially women leaders, because it's a journey that I've passed through. I'm still passing through, coming from the place of self-awareness, coming from seeing the things that were stopping me and wanted to get me stuck, and, coming out of that process through the various things that we have been saying. I believe there are so many women also that are going through the same thing that needs
Yes.
to be supported. And that is why I started the GEM Women Community, which is to help women to anchor themselves, right? You want to anchor yourself first,
Yes.
anchor yourself in God, see who you are, because it is based off of what you are that you can give to other people. You can't give from an empty you. You have to give from a full you. So that is part of the things we do to support women, to help them create this awareness, and also to excavate, the past traumas, because we are stuck as
Yes.
a result of past traumas. We started from the place of trauma, right? Past old mindset, belief system, things that have happened in our youth. And you can imagine what a lot of women have passed through when they were
Yes.
young. And these things really need to be digged out before you can really unleash yourself and put on that switch. And that was what happened to
Yes.
me. And we're supporting other women in that regard. So thank you so much for this interesting discussion. And audience, if you are happening to listening to us, we want to hear your story. We want to know what challenges you are going through, particularly in your professional and your personal growth journey. And if the strategies that Dr. Tavara has helped us highlight is going to, work for you in that regard, which I believe is going to work, because they are time and tested strategies. Being a good community, getting to know more about yourself, looking for good mentors and coaches. We cannot overemphasize that. But to round up, where can the audience find you? What do you have going on that we can be part of?
Well, so they can find me on my social media. So that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn under Tavara Johnson or Dr. Tavara Johnson. My website is tavarajohnson.com. My email is info@tavarajohnson.com. What do I have going on? I have some things that's going on in the pipeline, but I would also say, because I'm an author, I do have a book on emerging leaders. It was an anthology, but it's emerging leaders strategies to navigate your leadership journey. So I would say go ahead and you could pick that up. But I have a few.
I know she also hosts the talk show.
Yes, the radio show. That's
I was a guest on it early
Emergence
this
Radio Talk. Yes, that's every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to you can tune in there. I do have personality assessments. I do training. I am currently working on a training for people I don't want to give it all up.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to bring you back on here because I want us to really still dive into the trauma based thing we're talking about, which leads to toxic leadership, sort of. So we are really going to look at toxic leadership, relationship, what are the things you can do to get out of such situations, because it also stifles our growth. So we are going to look
Yes.
at it.
Yes, yes, it really does. But yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely say stay tuned because I do have some things coming out. I have another book that'll be coming out soon, so I would say that another leadership book. Definitely tune in. And of course, it's one coach. They could always just send me an email or message. I have one that's coming up that I'll be launching soon that talks a bit more about like purpose, clarity, realigning yourself. So I think that, and again, I always go back to that foundation because if the foundation isn't clear, you cannot build anything else on it. So, but I definitely want to say thank you so much for having me. It was definitely a pleasure to be on your platform, share with your
Thank you.
listening audience.
Thank you for honoring this invitation, Dr. Tavara. It's been a pleasure having you. And not mincing words, it's really a pleasure having you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing your wisdom with us and your time also with us. And I want to say thank you, everyone, for being with us on Inspire Circle today. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, I want you to hit the subscribe button down below and subscribe to this channel. We promise to be bringing you content that is going to inspire you, motivate you, and encourage you to be the best version of yourself. Until we see you again next time, nice day.